I call the honourable member for Hunter the Chief Government Whip.
And a very sage ruling, if I might say so, Mr Deputy Speaker, and I thank you for the call. I want to assure the member for Patterson that if it's necessary, I'll be happy to extend time to allow him to speak, because I've no doubt he'll be rising to congratulate the government on the additional expenditure of funds on the Pacific Highway, which of course runs through his electorate. And equally, no doubt he'll be rising to express his concern that the Premier of New South Wales is now balking at the Commonwealth's offer. But, Mr Deputy Speaker, this is very much a discussion about the budget, and I'd like to start by congratulating the Prime Minister, the Treasurer and the broader Cabinet, including, of course, the Infrastructure and Transport Minister, on what is a very, very good document. For me, as the member for Hunter, there are three key focuses. The first, of course, is the commitment to very quickly returning the Commonwealth's finances back to the black. That is so important for inflation and therefore interest rates, and of course keeping pressure off families at a time when there are very real cost of living pressures. The second is, of course, making sure that all Australians share in the bounty which will flow from mining boom Mark II, and that certainly will be the case in my electorate as a result of the redistribution of funds which will flow from the minerals resource rent tax. And thirdly, and one and the same, is ensuring that with unemployment below 5% now, we take this opportunity to get people who have been on welfare for too long back into the labour market and therefore back into the workforce. And we'll do that in two ways: carrot and stick. Carrot by investing in those who need a leg up to do so, in basic skills and beyond, education and training, and of course stick, making sure those who are capable of working do so. That's important for the economy, because we're going up against capacity constraints, and of course it's very, very good for our social cohesion. There are those who just need some encouragement, there are those that need a good push, and I'm determined that we implement those policies, and they are certainly given both aspects of that equation. More specifically, Mr Deputy Speaker, this discussion is about two things really. It's about COAG and the cooperation we need between the Commonwealth and the states, and of course, no, not surprisingly, given it was sponsored by the member for Lyne, it's about the Pacific Highway. I don't want to say too much about the Pacific Highway. Those who have spoken before me have done so thoroughly. In particular, very good presentation from the member for Lyne and the Transport Minister. So, except to say that I know it very, very well. It's of course part of the Hunter region. I was born in Bellingen because my maternal grandparents lived there, so I spent half a lifetime driving or being driven on the old Pacific Highway, as dangerous and as slow as it is, and I know the renewed Pacific Highway, thus far at least, and it's a huge improvement, and I know we all collectively welcome it. But I want to go back to cooperation, because it is just so important, as others have said, in terms of taking the country forward. What is of real concern to me, and should be of real concern to everyone in this place, is this, I think, increasing propensity of the states to increasingly look to the Commonwealth to fund just about everything. Now, it started under the Howard government. I'm happy to acknowledge it. The Commonwealth started to take greater responsibility for big projects, strategic projects, important projects, which the states, largely due to the reality of vertical fiscal imbalance, were losing the capacity to fund. And it was a good move by the Howard government, and of course it's an initiative which has been built upon by the now Labor government, and very much built upon. In fact, of course, we've been investing much more in these areas of infrastructure than was the Howard government. But it really concerns me that this is causing a sort of shift in the psychology of state governments, who, because we've now been spending so much money, seem to now believe that we have responsibility to do all. I had an experience on this just earlier in the week when the new member for Maitland, Robin Parker, a good woman, I look forward to working with her, responded to the Mayor of Maitland, who was complaining about a section of the New England Highway between Maitland and Lochinvar in my electorate, dual carriageway, single carriageway only, and the Mayor was calling upon something to be done. And of course, Robin Parker was quick to the mark to say, yes, the Commonwealth needs to do something about this. Well, as I pointed out in the Maitland Mercury, the government has spent $1.7 billion on a thing called the Hunter Expressway to bypass or effectively bypass that section of road. And I think it's reasonable to expect that, given we've invested some $1.7 billion, that the state government might start thinking about taking some responsibility for some of these projects. Indeed, the member for Patterson got involved in this debate himself. I noticed that after budget night, so happy, obviously, with what had been invested in his own electorate, no doubt in particular the Pacific Highway, thought he'd go shopping in my electorate to make the only comment he was prepared to make on infrastructure spending. And in doing so, he expressed disappointment that we hadn't funded the Maitland bypass. Well, Mr Deputy Speaker, I suppose I've got to be a bit careful because the member for Patterson is speaking next and he'll have right of reply, but there is no Maitland bypass, Mr Deputy Speaker, and this takes me to my next point. The Commonwealth, as willing as it might be, can't fund projects that don't exist, member for Patterson. There's no planning or design for a Maitland bypass. Now, I get lobbied, well, I did call the Mayor of Maitland actually to clarify that point, and he confirmed what I'm saying, member for Patterson. So thank you for your ill-informed intervention as usual. So this is a growing trend, Mr Deputy Speaker. Now, we haven't just been funding large infrastructure projects like the Hunter Expressway and the Pacific Highway. You know, in my electorate, I just made a quick note. New local road pavements, boom gates, traffic lights, roundabouts, medium strips and central barriers, road shoulders, road realignments. All these in Cessnock and Maitland and Singleton and Muswellbrook and Scone in my electorate. In fact, in every town in my electorate, there's been an investment in what would be described as more small-scale road and rail infrastructure. Now, you know, these are things the Commonwealth never dreamed of funding in the past, or at least there was no expectation on the Commonwealth to fund these things in the past. And I think it's time that some of our state governments took a bit of a reality check and looked at their own finances and took some responsibility for some of these projects. Now, I should acknowledge the New South Wales government, then the Labor government, put some $200 million into the Hunter Expressway, $200 million of $1.7 billion. We would have liked to have seen much more, but we welcome that contribution. But the states, including new Premier Barry O'Farrell, I'm prepared to give him the benefit of the doubt. We'll give him a chance to demonstrate he can be a good Premier. I'm sure he's got the ability if he turns his mind to it and shuns the politics. But he should expect to be making these contributions. And I was just amazed that he did anything other than come out and welcome overwhelmingly such an acceleration on a road project that has so long been calling for additional funding. If the Howard government had been funding it at the pace we've been funding it, then we'd have our dual carriageway all the way up the Pacific Highway now. But Mr Deputy Speaker, I spoke about cooperation at the beginning, and I just want to go back to that point. In the modern Commonwealth, I mean, I'm a great advocate of the abolition of the states, of course, Mr Deputy Speaker, and I'm very happy to restate that here, and I see I get plenty, almost unanimous view around. Is it unanimous? Can I have a show of hands? But I think we're stuck with the
honourable member for New England ought to observe the standing orders.
I think we're. Oh, so I got a score. Did I miss the score? What was it? Oh, 9. No, thank you. I thought 9.5 might have been more appropriate, but I think we're stuck with the current arrangements, at least for my lifetime, and I suspect for some time to come. And we all need to work very hard at making, given we're stuck with the partnership, Mr Deputy Speaker, we all need to work very hard at making it stick. And it's just not just in infrastructure, it's not just in health, it's not just in education, but it's also in vocational education and training. And that takes me back to a point I was making earlier. I've been pushing very hard within the government in recent months to have delivered what we had delivered on Tuesday night with respect to the long-term unemployed, sole parents that could be working, and too many people on disability pensions who I'm sure could be working. But it's not just a role for the Commonwealth. The states will be crucial on this issue, Mr Deputy Speaker. They have departments and agencies at the state level which will need to work in partnership, in cooperation with the Commonwealth. This is a big challenge for the country, but one we must tackle. And if we get it wrong, we will all collectively be condemned for passing up an opportunity that only really comes up, not just in a generation, but maybe once in every 3 generations. That is to ensure that we break the cycle of poverty, we give people meaning in life, we get them out of the psychology of accepting welfare payments and back into work.